You guys are used to seeing me interview wrestlers, but today I'm doing a sit-down interview with recording artist, engineer, songwriter, producer, astrologer, and one of my dear friends, Aaron Odum. Aaron and I have known each other for over a decade. I have a lot of good questions I want to ask him today, so we're going to get right into it. Thanks for sitting down with me today, Aaron.
No problem.
I know you have some music coming out that we're going to talk about, but I wanted to start with just what inspired you to get into music in the first place, because I know that was decades ago for you at this point, and who kind of inspired you?
So, I've always really been into music since I was very little. I started, I actually really started just like memorizing songs on the radio when I was really little, and trying to like imitate every single artist that I really liked. It was Jammin' 94.5.
Yep.
And from there, I just eventually started writing poems. And then when I got like introduced to like Nas and, you know, all of like the Big Pun and Biggie and, you know, Tupac and all that stuff, I kind of was like, oh, okay, I resonate with this, and started writing rhymes. I think it was me and Joe Slaney who really started to like actually write rap verses back when I was in middle school or elementary school.
Y'all might have seen him on YouTube. He used to be not as crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should cut that part.
It's
I
all
don't know
good.
if that's nice.
It's fine. Yeah. Homeless Joe. # Homeless Joe. That's the same guy we're talking about. Just let that play how it is. But so, yeah, we started doing like performances. Like we had performed like the song "Victory" by Busta Rhymes and Biggie Smalls, and in the class for people like that. Like
at school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know. It just kept going for me from there. I just wanted to, I guess, just keep learning how to do what they do.
What grade were you guys in then?
That was about 4th, 5th grade.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah. That was 4th, 5th grade, where we even had like teachers that were cool enough to let us do it. So Miss Trudeau was my 4th grade teacher. She was super cool. She let us do all that. And then, from there, I started like hanging out with cats in high school, doing freestyle ciphers. And then what really changed everything when I really started to be like, oh, I could do this was I think it was my 18th birthday. I battle rapped a couple of my homies, Lance and a couple other homies. And somebody there was just like, yo, you need to meet my other dude. He records. And they got me in the studio for the first time, and from there I just was like locked in for life. So, yeah.
Okay. I know recently you said the way that you write music is different now than it was when you first started writing music, and has kind of evolved in between all of that time frames. Can you tell me a little bit about how your process of writing music before and your process to writing music now?
Absolutely. So, like I said, I started off writing poems, so that was just pure pen and pad. Just, I don't know, they were more like love poems back then.
Yeah.
But,
we knew what we were talking about in middle school.
Like, just crushing on chicks and whatever. So, I used to basically just my method was when I would hear a beat, I'd find a beat I liked. And then I would actually, because I was so good at memorizing songs, I would spit a verse to a song that I felt went along and matched the cadence of that song. And then once I felt like it was the right flow, I guess, then I would just add my own words. And I would write all that down, pen and pad, however long it took. And then, when we started getting these crazy smartphones and stuff, I'm showing my age, but Started
Back
writing
in
on-
back in our day for you youngsters,
You know.
you used to have to write with a pencil to a piece of paper. None of this technology stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy how things have changed. But so that was kind of my method until I started to figure out my own sound and how I really wanted to come across, meshing a lot of my influences. And really, I got to the point where now I just think of the lyrics in my head and I'll create the concept and then write a 4-bar to 8-bar hook or chorus, and then I'll record it, and then from there I'll basically build a verse without ever writing it down. And what I mean by that is line by line I'll come up with each line, record it, and then come up with the next line, record that until I get 16 lines that create the whole verse, typically, unless it's a longer verse. But so basically, majority, I would say 90% to 95% of my more current music is all just created in that way.
Okay. Do you think doing it that way, like kind of just recording yourself right in the moment, is easier to remember what you want to say versus like, oh, let me get the pen and paper and like write it down? Like, I know for me, I don't have great handwriting, so I have to like be very careful and kind of slow with how I'm writing. So I imagine if like you're anything similar to that, like it might take you longer and you can lose some of the inspiration that's in your head.
Yeah, so basically, with the writing part, it became a thing where I was more so getting focused on the medium or like the connection with the instrumentation. So let alone like, yeah, okay, I could. So the translation from writing down to then what was in your head to writing on the paper to then recording it, right? That there is something that gets lost in translation there. And how you thought it was going to be in your head isn't always how it actually fits when you go to say it. So
doing it directly to the beat, you can kind of feel it out more.
Exactly. So I can actually experiment, take away a word, add a word, and really get it to sit where I want it to. And then also, because I'm always, still just hearing the beat, I'm in that vibe, I can kind of connect with the rhythm and the vibration of that song more so. And that was like, that's really my goal now as an artist, was like, where the pen and pad or even writing on the phone, I'm kind of disconnected from the frequency of the song because there's so many in betweens. There's like so many connect the dot from me to the paper then to the thing. So now it's just a direct connection between what the song wants and what I'm trying to express.
Okay. So I know that along the way you've kind of self-taught or had some friends teach you how to do other parts of music that you didn't always have all the knowledge to. What made you want to learn, how to produce and how to do all these extra things outside of just creating, the songs, writing the songs and recording it? Like, what made you want to engineer and produce, and like who kind of got you into those things and helped teach you?
So it came out of necessity, because like what would happen and how I felt for a long time in my music career was that I'd hit a lot of roadblocks, and it wasn't necessarily because of me. It was always because I would put certain things in other people's control. So over time, I was like, man, like I have to create the environment to where I can be as productive and efficient as possible. So audio engineering came first, and I first started to learn audio engineering from Lotto, who is a well-known audio engineer out here in the Worcester area. And from there, I linked with Derez and really started to understand audio engineering from him. And just from working on our albums and working on individual projects and just kind of growing as artists together, I started to get taught how to produce more. And diving into, YouTube University and all that stuff really helped me too. But it was more so having him as a mentor to show me specific things that and ask questions, because that's a big deal. It's like you can go and do the YouTube thing, but you can't ask questions and get a quick enough response, and those type of things. So yeah, I learned a lot of production from Derez, and now even learning how to, play instruments, bass guitar, drums, everything.
Yep. So you got something over there.
Yep, got my bass guitar, 5
Yep.
string,
Love that.
Yep.
So you also have some new music coming out. I know you're building an album right now. You've got some songs already under your belt. Most of this is, or all of it is just you, right?
It's produced mostly by me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does this album that you have now have a specific theme that you're going with, a specific thought that you're running with, and can you share a little bit with us without giving us like any spoilers?
Yeah. So the concept is it's a non-playable character. So.
Okay.
So that is a concept I came up with, and I promise you, I haven't watched.
Is that a video game reference?
So it is a video game reference, right? An NPC is normally the characters that get programmed to just be in the background, in the audience, type of thing. And my whole concept and my whole real message in music is awareness. Spreading awareness and spreading truth and really just, kind of enlightenment in different forms. It is reality based too, but it's more so I want my music to get people to think, but also unify them in a more spiritual sense. Like, for me, it doesn't really, matter what specific religion you might follow, your belief systems. I think it's more of finding that common ground between individuals and allowing people to be individuals. As it pertains to the album concept, I wanted to tell a story of a non-playable character in a game. Any game, doesn't really matter. And their journey to not accepting their fate of just being in the background and becoming the main character, and what that feels like, and the things that they might have learned from and inspired them to be like, you know what, I'm not going to settle for being in the background.
I love that. How many songs do you have left? Is there a certain number that you're looking for, or are you just kind of feeling the vibe?
I'm just feeling the vibe. I think for now, I'm kind of thinking between, 10 to 12 max. But for this one, I kind of want to overproduce and make sure that I pick, a good set of songs that really tell the story and that are pretty cohesive but still dynamic. I want to still showcase that I'm capable of doing, many different avenues of hip hop, but not straying away from like what feels natural to me. So it's not really gonna be, I would say, one way, in a sense to where it's not like a fully acoustical album. There's, it's gonna be more sampled based, but there is acoustics in there and live instrumentation.
Are the instruments you with the stuff you've been learning?
Absolutely, yep, absolutely, and there'll be some production in there from Derez. Just the go-tos that I rock with, Buno, but it's gonna be mostly me in there, and just I want to be able to give like a full product for the first time in my career because I've never done that. So.
You've never made a full album like that?
No, I've never made a full project that I mostly produced. So this will be the first one.
I love that. That's gonna feel like a big accomplishment, I feel
like.
Do you have a release date yet for this album? Or are you just kind of, again, going with the flow?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a set release date, but I will say that it'll be out before the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are these going to be summer jams people can listen to in the car on the way to the beach?
Definitely.
Kind of vibes?
There'll be some, definitely. It's going to feel more like a summer vibe, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So I know that one of the things that you're into, aside from music, is anime and Japanese culture. You literally have it on your shirt right now, and your hat. What originally got you into anime and the Japanese culture?
Well, when I was probably a teenager, I was put on a Dragon Ball Z by my brothers, my two older brothers, and we had to like watch it through the static because we didn't have the channel at the time. I think it was Cartoon Network at the time, or at least I didn't have it on the TV at the time. And yeah, so Dragon Ball Z was like my introduction, and I did like everything in my power to like watch that, regardless of anything. Because even back then I was into like, you know, WB and all that stuff. But when I got put onto like that Japanese animation, it just...
That was it for you? There's
a different way that they write. There's obviously a different way that they draw, but just their writing is next level, you know? So it started back then, and I just fell in love with it, you know? Yeah.
So what was Dragon Ball Z the first one that you liked, or the one that you liked the most back then as a kid?
Yeah, as a kid, it was my favorite one. It was the first one I had ever seen, and then after that, I was put onto Sailor Moon.
Okay. Yeah. As an adult now, what do you like the most for anime? Like top 3?
My top 3 right now would be Solo Leveling. A lot of people probably aren't going to say this, but I just saw it more recently. Fire Force. And dang, I would say I don't know. I really love Shangri-La Frontier, but if we're talking about like just overall impact and like really have like the whole thing that I think other people would like too, Kaiju number 8.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's a sleeper for real.
Is there anything about the Japanese culture? I know you tie it into your style and what you like to wear. Is there other parts of your life that you kind of tie that into?
Absolutely. The Japanese are really spiritual people. Mm-hmm. So that's why I resonate with their culture so much. Even though like a lot of metaphysical concepts come from like India and ancient Egypt. Yeah, I implement it in probably everything that I do because I don't really watch anything else. Like, it's my biggest inspirations for all of my music, really, especially now I've kind of fully stepped into, like, integrating anime into the music.
Okay.
I didn't really do that before, and now with my new album, Non-Playable Character, every song is named and inspired by an anime character.
Is it old and new anime that you're using? And okay,
absolutely.
I love that.
And some that like you wouldn't really consider. You think it's not anime. You're like, oh, is that really anime? But it is Japanese animation. Like I have a song named after Knuckles because Sonic, Knuckles, that's all Japanese too. And I've always been like a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. My son is a huge Sonic the Hedgehog fan. So I was like, man, let me try. If I'm going with the concept, let me try to fit that in there, and it actually fits the vibe really dope. So
love that. So I know one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of all of this was that you are also an astrologer, which not everybody seems to be a fan of it, but not everybody really understands the ins and outs in that much detail. What really first got you into astrology to begin with?
So, it's really a huge part of my spiritual journey. So I have to kind of go back a little bit to where right before I kind of went into the army, I went into the U.S. Army, and before that, I was really learning a lot of. I like science. I'm a bit heavy into science, and I was learning about M theory and basically the existence of multiple dimensions and multiple universes, and that like really had me intrigued. And when I got into the military, I had like known a little bit about like what an aura is and stuff like that, but I didn't really dive into it until I met one of my best friends, my other best friend from the army, KZ, and me and him are still very close to this day. He put me on to a lot of spiritual concepts, with the aura and just what is that's comprised of, and we started learning about chakras. And he was into tarot. He had these tarot. I had a tarot deck. Believe it's the Revelations deck, which is still one of my favorite decks now. But basically, he was given that deck from one of his friends, who blessed the cards, and then took his own life later after that in some time frame. Right. And because of maybe that, I don't know, the cards had like, we would flip them every so often, and they would be kind of giving us warnings about what was coming and be kind of accurate when we would ask questions. So we didn't really play around with that. We would take it pretty seriously, and we kind of would create this ritual, but I don't want it to sound witchy or anything, but like where we would kind of do a sequence of things before, just to prepare and kind of,
Protect yourself.
yeah, and so I started to really see that there was something there with that, and those cards actually ended up in my possession. I still have them now.
Wow.
Yeah, he left them with me, and he never asked for them back. So so they actually were the first divination tools that I ever had. And from there, I started to really look into astrology, because I had known about horoscopes, didn't really go too far into those either, but I learned that, like, if tarot could kind of, affirm things, then there must be more to that. So, and some of the cards would actually talk about how they relate to certain signs. So I was like, oh, and I started to look into astrology and all that. And then I think about 2016 time frame, I found the Leo King, David Lawrence Palmer, and he just is an incredible astrologer who is capable of doing things beyond what a normal astrologer can do. So I started to learn from him, and I actually purchased, many courses from him, and just dove really deep. Ever since then, I would say I took it more seriously in the last 5 to 7 years, where I really doubled down, went into more advanced astrology. But ever since then, I have been learning.
That's awesome. What, I know you know a lot about not just the horoscopes and not just tarot, but you do natal chart readings. What made you inspired to provide those services for other people? Because I know that's something that you do.
Yeah, so I've always had kind of a passion to teach a little bit. Like, it's something that comes naturally to me.
Does it?
Yeah.
So get this man on a topic, he could go forever. It's not a bad thing, though.
Yeah, exactly. So, I do have, like, Mercury at 0 degrees Virgo. So in astrology, that is where Mercury is at home. It's where it likes to be, and it rules over Virgo. So my communication and thought processes and things are pretty clear. Being at the 0 degree, that's the most intense divine degree of any sign. And so I don't know. I've just always realized that. I've been told that, and I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like there's not many people like me who look like me, that talk like me, that know astrology to my extent, that can communicate it in a way that others that are my peers could understand and relate to. So I wanted to fill that void in the astrology community.
And kind of
as well.
share like the extended part that not everybody gets, because astrology is a very deep thing, and you can understand the basic, like, what is it, sun signs?
Sun signs, right.
But to be able to read a chart is very different.
Exactly.
So I think that's great that you're able to provide that for other people so that they can have a little bit of a deeper understanding of their own chart and like why they might be why they are.
Exactly.
And why they think the way they do. So that's really special.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to ask a random question just because I remember when it first started, and I don't necessarily remember the reason. I know that you have been growing your dreads for well over a decade at this point. Was there a specific reason that you wanted this hairstyle, or was this just something you just liked the look, or is it a deeper thing?
Wow.
I know. I remember they started like little baby dreads.
Yeah.
But it's long and beautiful now. You can do like different styles with it. But is there a deeper meaning, or you just like how it looks?
So yeah, there was always a deeper meaning. It's not that I didn't like how I looked with short hair. I think, you know, I'm fly with short hair or long hair. But honestly, it was part of my spiritual growth. I would look in the mirror and I would learn about my higher self, and I would think about connecting with who that person is and what they look like. And when I would see that person, it was somebody with long dreads. And I was like, well, if I'm going to really go on my journey, do my shadow work, understand who I am and who I'm not, apparently the vision that's coming to me is somebody with long hair. And, you know, long hair and locks are a sign of spirituality, because the hair is considered to be our antenna. And that's where we can actually pick up more on higher frequencies. And the reason why it's higher frequencies is because each chakra is a higher resonant frequency. So you start with red, right? And if you look at the frequency, like the wavelength of red, they have longer, wider wavelengths. That's because it's at the lowest vibration. And your crown chakra is on your crown. So that is actually the highest frequency that is in the human body, which is your crown chakra, and your hair grows from your crown. So it extends that antenna or that reception of those higher frequencies, and that's how we kind of see it. And that's more of like stems from a Rastafarian thing as well, but that's the concept.
So the antenna thing, do you want your antenna kind of just to be a representation of how you really feel? Like, is that kind of the correlation there?
It is, but it also is more of a more literal thing.
Okay.
Like, our body is always receiving frequencies, radio waves. Our voices are a frequency that we're feeling through our whole body. And truthfully, we have hair on every part of our skin. So there is some type of spiritual sense, but physical sense, that our hair can be an actual antenna.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So does that go? This is like a literal question
right
now.
Yeah.
Does it go by like the length, you mean, or like what makes it a strong antenna?
So yeah, I mean that would be the sense of a thing, right? Because
like not color, but more like
right, nothing to do with color or anything.
Length.
You think of a radio tower.
Okay.
They make them bigger, right? Yeah, longer. Pause.
Oh my
God. So that they could receive and send out frequencies over a bigger, longer spectrum, if you will, right? Okay. So that's kind of the thing. Like, the longer, the more you might be tuned in to higher frequencies. It doesn't mean that your hair has to be long, But some of us who feel called to do, for that is what I think is kind of dope,
Yeah.
And some people are meant to be, the super guru who has the long hair and meditates, and some people can be spiritual without all of that as well.
Okay.
My mentor doesn't have long hair. David doesn't.
Yeah,
have
no,
long
no,
hair,
not at all.
So.
And he is very locked in.
He is
and knows
very-
what the fuck is going on.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your tattoos that are in your hands?
Absolutely.
Pull them up.
Yeah, right here. Yeah. Metatron's cube, flower of life.
And why do you have them?
So, the reason I have them, they're very specific. So the flower of life, or the mandala, as it's known in other cultures, is where we get the origin of the universe. So how I like to describe it is, if we could have physically see the fabric of the universe, it would, in theory, look like this. Because everything comes from that seed of life, which is the middle, the very middle part. And the seed of life is where we get light, like actual physical light, mathematics, just almost everything you could think of. And because of that, I put it on my left hand because I talk with my hands, but I used to write most of everything with my right hand. So, in essence, I was thinking that my creative process starts here and comes into physical reality and manifests here in the Metatron's cube, because this is where we actually get the platonic solids, and those actually make up every element in physical reality. So you get the fabric of the universe, how it was created as it comes into physical manifestation. So because I write songs and I convey that message as a conduit, that's why Metatron's cube's on my right hand.
Do you have any other tattoos?
I have one on my shoulder, which is the symbol for my first mixtape that I ever did. My first project, Change the World.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
What a throwback. What a throwback. Another another topic that I would like to kind of get a little bit of your perception on is importance in value of the people that you have in your life, whether it be friends, family members. How do you navigate finding the right people and kind of cutting off the wrong people?
Wow. That is, dang, it's it's enigmatic in a way, because
Can definitely be a multi-leveled answer.
right,
too.
yeah, because the thing is over time, everything takes time. So I think that no matter what it is, if you're on the fence about something, a person in your circle, a friend, a friendship, time is always the key, right? A relationship. But really, I used to be like, damn, how much value do I provide? And is that reciprocated? And I would say even before I started to think like that, I kind of was more so like, let me just be this loving, compassionate individual who just kind of wants to spread their light. And I think as I went through my spiritual journey, learned the shadow work, went through certain things, bad relationships, I think over time I had to really be discerning and be like, you know what, well, not everybody has my best interest in mind. And really,
It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Yeah, and it could be people that, you didn't ever expect it from, long-term friends, family members. And for me, I'm a double Leo, Leo sun, Leo moon, Taurus rising. I kind of can I have this, and people who have a lot of Leo in their chart can relate to this. We do have a lot of self love, and if they're more spiritual, then they're on the self love side as opposed to the egoic side. But I think that because of that, because we have this loyalty to ourselves a lot, um, we can kind of be like, you know what? I really did put a lot of love into that relationship. And if they do me wrong or they cross me or cross a specific boundary, I can be very comfortable with walking away and letting go. And I think that letting go is a really hard thing in general for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's where I think we get caught up, where as we grow, we go through our teenage years and high school and all that stuff. We think that those times are forever, those people are forever. We don't want to let go of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is you can't become your highest self, your successful self, your at peace self without letting go of the things that were not
Working
meant
anymore?
for that.
Yeah.
Right. That were not meant to go on that journey, and you can't become that person still attached to those things
Mm-hmm.
and people. And those are hard, like you said, hard pills to swallow.
Yeah. You don't want to a lot of the time.
Right, because you create all these bonds, these memories,
Mm-hmm.
these things, and that's the thing is I think becoming comfortable or like learning how to accept that those times are almost just meant to be those times.
Yeah.
And that who you're becoming is now going to create new memories with people who now facilitate the frequency you're on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to move on. It's okay to just be like, we just don't resonate anymore. And it's not, there's no smoke. It's just.
That's one thing that I think is super important. I've had a lot of growth at the forefront of my mind recently. The last few years have been very much, I feel like I'm on a uphill. And one thing that is definitely hard is grasping that there doesn't have to be beef or hate. I can love you from over here and know that you're not good to be in my life anymore directly. Doesn't mean I hate you, doesn't mean you necessarily did anything. It doesn't mean that there's beef there. I gotta love you from over here.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I think that's a hard thing to grasp sometimes because, in a general sense, you feel like that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But on a deeper sense, it does.
Right. It does. Especially when you're striving for more.
Yeah.
When you're striving for more, you have to be critical about where you're putting your energy and your time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are around people who are not productive, who aren't at least trying to do more as well, then there's no synergy there.
Yeah.
And eventually, the heads will bump and it'll play out how it's supposed to play out. But it doesn't have to get to that point. I think that a lot of people who aren't comfortable with confrontation tend to let things draw out, and then they manifest a situation that's more confrontational
than it needs to be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a hard pill for anybody to swallow, but it kind of is what it is.
It is,
You can't grow staying attached to the same things if they're not growing too.
Right.
And you don't have to grow at the same path either, which I think is very important for people to understand. You can be growing separately, but as long as you're both going up,
right,
it doesn't really matter.
Like
you don't have to be on the same path.
It's like me and you. We're not on the same path, but we're growing in our directions.
Yes.
And we support each other through that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that, I think, is the key. Is like, who can you see that's like working hard towards something that you can be like, damn, I'm working hard towards something too. Let's support each other. We don't have to just be, you have to do music and I have to do what you do, And we found a way to make it mesh.
Yeah.
So.
One of my most solid friends right here.
100. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about today? We talked about music, Japanese culture, your hairstyle, your tattoos, astrology. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when it comes to like the main frame of my whole direction is music, and I think that what isn't, you know, might not always be understood is like I started taking music really seriously in 2013, where I dropped my first project, Change the World. And ever since then, all of everything you see for me is pretty much done by me, created by me, visually, the audio, everything is pretty much, you know, I do outsource, but my last two videos, music videos, those are shot.
Were you right?
Directed by me, shot by me. I did have some help with Derez. Derez did shoot some stuff for me on the Grand Rising one. And that was when I was up here last year that we shot Grand Rising, which is, you know, if you haven't seen it, go check that out.
Is that the one you did in Marlboro
in
Center?
Marlboro, yep. Shout out Marlboro.
Shout out Marlboro.
You know,
Marlboro, Massachusetts.
Yep, raised out here. Yep, you know, I was born in New Wellesley Hospital, raised out here. I did live 1 year in Waltham, so I got a lot of love for Waltham. My mom, when she came from Haiti, she grew up in Waltham, so I got a lot of love for Waltham, a lot of love for Marlboro. When I come back, I'm always out here. You catch me out here. And I'm just trying to really, you know, put our city on the map. Let them know that there are very creative people out from our way, and I think that we get overlooked. You know, because you know there is a lot of talent in Worcester. There's a massive talent in Boston. You know, shout out Joyner from Worcester, Millie's from Boston, and everybody else who's really grinding and really takes this seriously. And I just want to show, you know, Central Mass, you know, we pop off. Middlesex County, like, we really, really do this out here. So,
are there any musicians, artists, producers from our area that you want to specifically shout out? I know you mentioned Derez. He's a great producer from our area. Is there anyone else that you want to give a little shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, shout out Jay Roddy. Shout out Ant. He's still doing his thing, grinding it out.
And his music, he goes under the name Ability. Yep. You can look him up.
You can look up his music. He's always going buck wild on some music. Yeah, my homie Vinyl Villain, crazy underground producer. John Glass.